Hey, sorry for the interruption, but we wanted to let you know that this week's episode is brought to you by Spotify for Podcasters. Really cool app. Josiah and I use it for every single show that we bring to you every week. You can edit podcasts right from your phone or computer, so you can start creating as soon as you log into the platform. You can easily distribute your podcasts to Spotify and everywhere else the podcasts are heard, just like we do every single week. You can also create video podcasts on Spotify, which is really cool. And of course, you can earn money like I'm doing right now by including ads and even podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free. There's no catch. We really love it. We use it every single week. So we encourage you to go download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started. All right, let's get back to the show.
Radical! Welcome to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Each week, join the gnarly Travis and Josiah as they provide insight into the print on demand industry and equip you with the totally tubular tools, advice, and strategies you need to achieve success and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. Now on to this week's Totally Tubular show.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Print on Demand Cast. Thank you so much for joining us for another week, episode 54 of the Print on Demand Cast. We're so glad that you're here, and I'm so glad that Travis is here as always, my co-host, my co-pilot, my captain, my captain, Diplomat Society. It's a long way to go for a Robin Williams reference, but I went there. Travis, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. I'm glad you brought Robin Williams into the first section of the Print on Demand Cast. He's a legend, and I appreciate that. How are you doing?
Man, I'm doing good, better than I deserve. Busy, of course. We are recording earlier than normal on
we are
a Tuesday,
and it's your fault.
It is my fault. So we had a client, the client that I often refer to here and have referred to before. He called me on Thursday and said, "Hey, get ready." And I said, "For what?" And he told me his marketing strategy that he was launching. And so I was like, "Yeah, okay, cool." And then over the weekend, the man sold 1,200 orders in 3 days. So, and that's multiple items, and it hasn't stopped. So it's still pouring in. So, we are now kind of we have a guy that's coming in. We have two people that are working second shifts, kind of night shifts, and then Jason and I for this week are going to be filling in and doing a night shift. So that night fell on tonight for me. So I text you, Travis, and I said, "Hey, I got to record early on Thursday or on Tuesday rather, because I'm going to be printing all night." So when you guys are listening to this, I will have probably marathon printed through the night, burning the midnight oil, watching Rocky 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know. Trying to keep my mind occupied while I just print away. But that is why we're here. And that's why we have a new 3070 coming. So that's going to be fun to talk about as soon as that thing gets here.
Congratulations. That's exciting.
Yeah, it is exciting. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think, maybe I can post some exclusive stuff to the YouTube channel so people can kind of see it running, see the installation, setup, that kind of stuff. But it's going to be super exciting to see that thing in action. And see if it's everything that they said it was, because it better be, because it's a lot of money. So it better be all that and more.
Yeah, for sure. That's it is a lot of money. We're kind of looking at one ourselves. So just to kind of gear up for Q4, and much like you, it's you're like, well, the volume is it's okay, and then a customer goes, "Hey, I'll take 100 of those," and you're like, "Oh." Plus the other volume, okay, and then the next customer says, "I'll take another 50 of those," and I'll,
I think that'd be something. I don't whether it's you and I in a future episode or someone else that could speak to it, but preempting growth in a good way instead of reacting to growth, which can also often lead to, I've often said in the last handful of weeks. If God, using the story of Noah as an analogy, saying if God said the rain's coming, we can either build the boat in anticipation or tread water and drown. Those are the two options. And so what that tension is, how to walk that out. I think it might be an interesting episode for those that are kind of in that phase as well, that are our listeners. So this week, Travis, we don't necessarily have a point of interest because we have an interview. And as is custom, if we have someone in on the interview, we don't usually do a point of interest, but we would never, ever think or begin to think or fathom of depriving you, the listener, of this week's weekly dad joke.
Time for the weekly dad joke.
So Travis, are you gonna serve this one up this time? You text me with this joke.
Well, yeah, I mean,
serve it up.
I just thought it was really interesting because I literally just learned that Chuck Norris was actually exposed to COVID-19.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
The virus had to quarantine for 14 days.
And that's this week's dad joke of the week. Yes, Corona has met its match. So if you need to know, I think, the effective medicine would be just Chuck Norris's blood. But there's a finite amount of that. We can't just go around doing that. And Travis,
willy-nilly.
Before we go into the main event of this episode, you are holding a cap not so nonchalantly next to your shoulder, and I'm very confused because there's no ghost in the middle of that circle with a slash through it, so it's not a Ghostbusters gimmick. What are you holding?
This, my friends, is the no cap. I'm not lying. No cap. It's literally a blue cap, so like the emoji, and it has a little cross through the middle, like Josiah said, like the Ghostbusters cross. Yeah. And it's literally a no cap. And there was a mutual friend of ours who, well, I don't care if you know, it was actually Chris Green. He contacted me and he said, "Hey, can you do this? I want to test it." And so he bought a domain, literally nocapcap.com, and he just posted a picture. They're all mock-ups. It's not even this hat. I haven't that's literally the first one we did. We got the thing digitized. We set it up. I mean, it's literally a one-page website. It's nothing fancy at all. He just wanted to test it. And so we put it out there and we were talking about it. I was on one of his coaching calls today and we kind of released it as an example of how you can test with print on demand. And it's going to be cool. So I'm going to send this to him. He's going to do like a TikTok and see if he can, kind of get it out there a little bit more. And who knows? Yeah. I mean, we may sell nothing, but that's the idea of testing, and trying different things. And that's the beauty of print on demand. And so we're going to try to sell the no cap. And I'm not kidding. I mean, no cap.
No lie.
We're going to do this.
No cap. As my nephew says, no cap, no glizzy. I don't know what actually a glizzy is a hot dog. So figure that out. So no lie, no hot dog. I don't understand it, but I go with it because I love the kid. So no cap, no glizzy, nocapcap.com. Get yourself one if you want to avail yourself and confuse people around you and incite a conversation as to what no cap means, or be in with the youngsters, the Generation Zs. Market to the Gen Zs, as we've said in a previous episode, and just get to nocapcap.com. So again, because it's fun to say, nocapcap.com. Say that 3 times fast. So, no, man, that's excited. I'm excited to hear what happens with it, and if it goes off, maybe we need to have Chris back on here and we can talk about how print on demand works for testing and have him on the show again. It's always good talking to him. And speaking of having people on the show, this week our main event of the episode is our interview with the gentleman that he has a podcast, Merch Minds podcast, correct? Is that is his podcast? So Travis, tell the listeners before we go into it, what kind of prompted you to reach out to Yong and bring him on the show?
Yeah, Yong, and I allude to this in the interview. I had met him kind of through the podcasting world. He had a podcast back when there weren't any print-on-demand podcasts. There's very few. And he was doing a Merch by Amazon podcast. He had a partner at the time, Glenn, who was also doing really well in Merch by Amazon. And we were doing, for the Rocky Mountain Reseller Conference, we were going to have a merch kind of wing or a tract for merch. And so I wanted them to come and maybe even speak. And, so I just reached out to him. I was actually on his podcast, and that's how we met. I've always kind of stayed in touch. His shows still come up on my my podcast feed and such. So I knew recently he took a break when his father passed, took a break for quite a while from kind of doing the podcast, but he's recently come back and, doing the podcast again. And so I thought, well, let's have him on the show. And I think, we'll probably go on his show at some point too. And, it's that whole idea that, we're all in this together. There's no competition here, really.
Totally.
We are, in print on demand world, there's plenty of pie to go around. And so let's share some with Yong on this week's Print on Demand cast.
100%. So with that, guys, we're going to go into this week's main event, our interview with Yong from Merch Minds Podcast.
On a cold, dreary night in September of 2020, Travis Ross and Josiah Cifuentes created the Print on Demand cast. This is the main event.
All right, Travis, this week for the main event, we have another interview. We have another special guest. We have Yong from the Merch Minds podcast, rather. A little bit about Yong before we bring him on, just for you, the listener, to know. Yong graduated with a BA in graphic design from San Jose State University. He found early success in merch by Amazon when he was consistently selling $3,000 a month with only 300 products live. So, Travis, you do the math real quick. You let us know, what's that per product?
No, I'm not getting out my calculator.
We don't have time to wait. We don't have time to wait because Yong is waiting. We want to bring him on right now. Yong from the Merch Minds podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, man. How's it going?
Good. How are you guys? Travis, it's good to see you, and Josiah. First time meeting you. I love your name, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
It's from the Bible. I read my Bible. I know
very much so. That is.
I know that sounds crazy. As loud as I am, and as much as I curse, I do read my Bible.
Hey, we do the same. My dad was a pastor, and my mom had that name picked out since years and years before I was born. So
I love it.
So little Bible trivia. You don't know what you're going to get here on the Merch Minds. This isn't the Merch Minds podcast. This is the Print on Demand cast. I've got my wires crossed now. But no, hey, thanks so much for coming on. I know you have had Travis on your show before as well, and so Travis reached out and wanted to have you on ours, and we'll go from there. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you guys. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, we had back when I was still doing the Rocky Mountain Reseller Conference, the third year we did it, we had a merch track, like a Merch by Amazon track that we invited a bunch of people to come on. And while we were promoting the conference and trying to kind of say, hey, we're not just doing, Amazon FBA or, wholesale or private label. We're also actually going to be talking about merch. I went on the Merch Minds podcast way back when, and I was still, probably 75%, retail arbitrage, private label, wholesale, all of that stuff. Is before I was, had made the shift into full-time print on demand. So it's been a couple minutes since I've talked to you, Yong, but I'm glad. Sounds like your show's still going strong. You're kind of back in the saddle, and let's jump in here. Let's just kind of get a little bit of history with your print on demand story. Why don't you tell us kind of how you got into print on demand, Yong?
Yeah, so I actually got into it. I think, like most of us, we heard it through Chris Green. But Travis, back then, I was kind of like, I was doing a lot of RA. I was traveling the country whenever I can, and I would go sourcing. I would go on these sourcing trips. And at that time, my co-host, Glenn, some of you guys may know him as Hustler Hacks. He's like, yo, man, I started this, merch by Amazon. Are you doing it yet? And I was like, man, look, I know what it is. I just don't have time right now. I'm getting ready for Q4. And then that December, he told me he made like $10,000. And I was like, what? I was like, man, I'm like, let me do some research. And, like I said, I had heard about it. And then I signed up, and they weren't approving accounts at the moment. So I had to wait like 3-4 months. Got approved, and so that's pretty much how I got started. That was back in 2016, I want to say, like March of 2016. I finally got approved. Things were a lot different back then, my listeners, my longtime listeners will know, like, I document my entire journey on my podcast. Like if they go back to the very first episode and just listen all through, they'll literally follow my numbers. Because we were the only podcast out there for merch by Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like the only, we were the first ones that were giving out our 7-day numbers. And, I'm very open about my numbers. I know some people, they don't like to share the numbers. Look, I don't have anything to hide. I share my numbers. I haven't shared my numbers as of lately, only because nothing's really changed. But again, my longtime listeners know how much I'm making. It's not much compared to what it was, but yeah. So that's pretty much my story on how I got into it.
Okay, cool. So you have a day job that you do outside of Merch by Amazon, right? So it's kind of a side hustle for you. Is that correct?
More like a side hustle, man. And you live in California, you have to have a day job. It's so damn expensive out here, man.
Yeah, you have to have a day job and a side hustle to make it in California.
Exactly, man. It's nuts. It's crazy.
No, that's totally understandable, man. So where are you at now in your POD journey? I know I asked you, before we pressed record, like, where are you? Meaning, where do you live? And then you offered up where you were specifically, like location wise at the moment, but you wanted to save that because you said it's kind of a cool story. So
yeah, I don't know if it's cool. Yeah, I don't know if it's cool, but it's definitely an interesting story. Again, my listeners would know, but I don't mind sharing with your listeners. So I am in California. So I'm originally from Silicon Valley, Northern California, and then late last year I relocated to Southern California because my father had passed, and because my mom is in Southern California, I wanted to relocate here because technically she's here alone.
Sure.
And but I still have my day job in Silicon Valley, and I've been working remotely the whole time, and so I made the decision to relocate for the time being, with the intention of going back whenever they reopen. And so to answer your question, Josiah, I guess technically I'm homeless because I've been living in an extended stay hotel since the whole time I came down here.
Okay.
and people ask, well, why don't you get an apartment? Well, because when you get an apartment, you're locked into a lease, and then if my job says I do have to go back, now I'm stuck in the lease, right?
Yeah.
I can literally check out tomorrow. There's no contracts. There's no lease. I can just pack everything up and just go. Yeah.
Yeah, and given the cost of living, it might be the same or maybe cheaper to just keep doing extended stay hotels in California.
It's I might be saving a little, on some utilities, but it's even the hotels here are crazy.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, everything, all of that stuff's crazy in California. That is a fun story, man. I had no idea you were living in an extended stay hotel. That's
so
cool,
so I joke, I'm technically homeless.
Yeah. Well, as long as you got good internet, these days.
Exactly. That's all you need to survive and work remotely is some reliable internet connection.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Yong, let's dive into a little bit more about POD, because I know you have, we said in the intro that you got a bachelor's in graphic design. So I want to know, like, obviously that helps you in print on demand. Of course it does, because you know the difference between good design and bad design. But I'm just wondering if there's other things that make you uniquely qualified to be in print on demand. Maybe it's, just personality, could be, like personal characteristics that you have that help you have more of a bent towards, working remotely or working online, or, things like that. I'm just curious if there's other things that besides your bachelor's that make you uniquely qualified to be in print on demand.
I don't know if I'm necessarily qualified. I think anyone's qualified, right? I mean, the tenant next door to me could be qualified to be on print on demand. I'm just, I don't like to use the term expert. I'm really not, right? I'm just like you guys. I'm just I'm just a regular guy. I just happen to have that degree, and it's not. And and like when I say I have a degree in graphic design, like I'm not saying that to say, oh, I'm better than you, my designs are better than yours. You know, I'm sure there's some 12-year-old kid in India who can just blow me out of the water, right? But I'm just, like I said, I have the formal training, like I have the eye to recognize a good design between a bad design, right? So I don't think I'm necessarily qualified. I just have a formal training, again, to know what's good and bad.
Sure. Okay. No, that's cool. I'm curious too. Like, I know you do like Merch by Amazon's your main jam, but you also do Etsy, right?
I do a little Etsy.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do a little Etsy. My numbers there aren't that great because, look, how do I put this? I'm like 80% Merch by Amazon, and then like 30% Etsy. So I'll do, like, when I say part-time hustle, Etsy is like my part-time hustle.
Your quarter-time hustle.
Yeah,
you had to split it up and divvy the pie.
I hardly ever touch it.
Are those the only two platforms you're on then? Is just
as far as print on demand? Yeah.
Okay.
I do have a Redbubble account, but
Sure.
I haven't touched that in years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that do any sales at all, or is it just kind of if it makes a sale, you're happy, or you don't
on
even notice
average?
It,
yeah,
like
on
buys
average,
you a coffee or something.
Yeah, on average, I might get like 10 sales per month.
Yeah.
Okay. So
well, that's better than some. I was just gonna say that's better than some of my, low end. Like I think we're on Wish.com. I think I get like 2 or 3 sales a year, and then Bonanza. I think I get maybe 10 to 20 sales a year again. So.
Jesus,
so yeah,
Bonanza's still around, huh?
Yeah, believe it or not.
So the majority of your volume then comes through Merch by Amazon, and I know that there's a lot of our listeners out there that are just getting started in Merch by Amazon. And so for those people listening that are just kind of beginning the journey, are there some tips that you could give the listeners that are caught in that tier 10 or tier 25 part of Merch by Amazon to help them kind of break through that ceiling?
Yeah, I can give you a lot of tips. I would say, look, you don't have to go to design school like I did. I know a lot of talented people that they're very good designers and they're self-taught. So I would say, because it's not rocket science, right? Like you can't teach yourself how to, I mean, maybe you can. Like you can't teach yourself how to build a space shuttle, but you can definitely teach yourself how to do design, right? Because all that information is online. So I would say, if you're just getting into it, just do your due diligence and teach yourself some fundamentals of design, because it will really, I promise you, it will make a big difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even if you're buying your designs, because like when I started, I just bought a bunch of designs.
Absolutely.
Ended up those designs that I bought for merch, I did put them on merch shirts, but I also eventually ended up using those on my coffee mugs when I started, printing them myself. But I didn't really know what, the only thing I knew is when I looked at a design, I could tell if the text was, right or centered or whatever, but I didn't have like concepts of what good design is. But you're saying that skill, like having an actual kind of background in graphic design, will help you. Basically, that's what I'm hearing.
Right? I mean, it helped me. I mean, look, guys. I mean, early in my career, I mean, again, it's been all documented. If you guys think I'm lying, just go back and listen to the earlier episodes. I literally had 300 designs, and I was consistently making like $3,000 a month. And that was kind of like my claim to fame, right? People were like, what the hell? Right? I wasn't doing it. I mean, they were just really good designs, in my opinion. So, but yeah, and obviously my numbers fell off after Amazon made all those crazy changes and whatnot. Sure. But yeah, I mean, proof is in the pudding, right?
So you said learning the fundamentals of design is something that do your due diligence to do that when you're first starting in. So for someone that, let's say, doesn't have a bachelor's in design, are there any good resources out there that you could point them to help them understand the fundamentals of designs, whether it's, even something on a YouTube tutorial or something like that? But is there something out there that you think can help people kind of grasp what the fundamentals of design are as they kind of go into this journey?
Easy. 2 words: YouTube University. There are tons of free content on YouTube. You can literally just search anything from color contrast, typography, anything. You can find tutorials on YouTube, literally.
Sure.
Travis, I don't know if you ever talked to Tara Flake. If not, you should definitely have her on the show in the near future. But she's I don't remember her original. I think she was like in marketing or something or advertising, but she wanted to do graphic design. So she taught herself how to do design on YouTube, and she does really well in merch.
Cool. I just wrote her name down. Maybe we'll reach out and have her on sometime. So back to the original question, so have good designs. In order to get out of tier 10 or tier 25, have good designs, but surely that can't be it. I mean, is there anything else that, somebody, because I think that's kind of goes without saying, it makes sense. If I want to sell something, it's got to be good quality. Are there other things that you can point to and say, well, this will help you? Frankly, I'll admit I bought my way out of tier 10 and then I tried to, get as many people as I could, when I was at tier 25 to buy stuff. And, is there any other, tips or tricks that you can maybe help somebody that is stuck kind of in that endless loop of, checking their phone and nothing, seeing the double zeros?
Yeah, it's going to sound cliche, right? Everyone's going to say, "Oh, do the research, and you have to be in the right niche." Is it niche? I can never understand.
It's both.
Is it okay? You have to be in the right niche. You have to have the right keywords, like all that. Yeah, you need to have all that. But yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with your particular strategy of buying yourself out of tier 10. I never did that because I wanted to, when I first started, I was like, okay, these are my designs. I want to make sure that someone else buys them. Because if someone else is buying them, that's social proof that it's going to sell, right? Mm-hmm. Compared to where if I buy it, well, yeah, it's sold, but I bought it.
Right.
So I want social proof.
It may never sell again.
Yeah. So I want social proof that it's going to sell. Again, just having good design, understanding good design, and it's like what you were saying, Travis, even if you don't want to do your own design, still teach yourself design because then you'll make smarter decisions, right? Whether you outsource or you buy designs from elsewhere, you can make better decisions.
Okay, so obviously there's we've had people on the Print on Demand cast, thinking of Neil Lassen, and we've had other people like that that have specific tools that are specifically for Merch by Amazon. Some of them are specifically for Merch by Amazon. Some of them are, more POD generic. And I'm just wondering, do you use any specific tools for POD? And if so, what are they?
Yeah. So obviously I use Adobe Illustrator to make my designs. Yeah. And that's what I recommend to anyone. I know people use Photoshop, but Photoshop was originally created to edit photos. It wasn't created to make designs. Now, I know people do it. That's okay. I'm not criticizing you. If that's your thing, go ahead and do it. But really, it should be done in Illustrator. So that's one tool that I use. I do use Merch Informer. Let's see, Merch Resize.
Merch Resize. Okay, cool.
Never heard of it?
Is that, nope. No. Now, see, you're talking to a couple guys who were in Merch by Amazon when it first came out, made some money, and then kind of moved on to the next thing. And I haven't touched my merch account in, over a year. I think I did when they changed the algorithm to where you could load,
the design was the issue, and you could load it on all the products. I think I logged in for a few days and like put a bunch of crap on pillows and totes and all of that. But no, so we don't really have a lot of insight into the Merch by Amazon ecosphere. So yeah, tell us about Merch Resize.
Yeah, so it's basically a drop and drag tool. It's web-based, and it resizes all your designs. So if you have a 4500 by 5400 design, you drop it in there, and you can resize it to a pop socket, an iPhone case, hoodies. You mentioned pillows. So yeah, merch. So it's just basically merchresize.com. I use that all the time.
That's cool.
Let's see. What else do I use? I feel like I'm leaving something out. Productor, great tool.
Oh yeah.
I think everyone uses that, right, at this point.
Yeah, I actually found that when I came back to Merch. I'd heard somebody talking about it, and it actually has the ability to resize stuff kind of in it too, and then it has a translator inside of it, so you can post to all the other. I mean, I'm sure it's, Google Translate is Google Translate. It's not going to be a perfect translation, and native speakers or native readers of those other languages are going to know that, okay, this guy ain't from Germany, or whatever.
Yeah, right.
But at least they can get the idea of what the shirt or the product is about. So yeah, I really liked that. Productor, is that what it's called? Yeah.
Productor. Yeah. It's, man, I mean, just all the information that you get in one dashboard, it's just, oh my gosh. It's
overwhelming.
It's amazing. It is. I mean, there are some features I don't even know how to use. There's just so much. I'm just like, whoa. But yeah, so Productor is a good one. I want to say there's one more, man. But
do you use Pretty Merch or anything like that?
I do use Pretty Merch, but that's, again, it's Productor, Pretty Merch, and I feel bad saying this because I actually know the guy from Pretty Merch, and I've developed a relationship with him over the years. And I'm not saying anything bad about the guy; he's a great guy. But Productor came along, and it was like, let's put it this way: Pretty Merch was like your Toyota Camry, right? Productor came along, and it was like your Mercedes, right? And I'm just like, whoa. So. Yeah, I mean, I have Pretty Merch. I've used it, but Productor's been my
your go-to.
My go-to. Yeah,
sure.
Chrome extension.
Yeah. I'm also curious. You mentioned listing some stuff on Etsy. I'm wondering if you've used any like cross-posting softwares, or there's a lot of these softwares that. Hey, upload your design to this one place, and it'll push it out to, all, Merch by Amazon, to Etsy, to eBay, to Amazon, all these different places. I'm wondering if you've ever used any of those or tried any of those programs, and what was your experience with those?
Yeah, I've tried them. And gosh, it's been such a long time. I can't remember what it is.
There was Orbit Kit. I think was one of them.
Yeah, Orbit Kit. So I've tried them, and at the time it was, it was a great tool. I mean, it was they were like the pioneers of cross posting when it comes to print on demand. But it's just, I found that when it does cross post, sometimes things aren't that accurate. Like you still have to go into your Redbubble account and kind of shift your designs either up or down. So I was like, well, what's the whole point of using this if I still have to go in there? So I again, and nothing against those guys. They did a phenomenal job in creating that. But yeah, so to answer your question, I've used it. Do I use it now? No.
Okay.
So for your Etsy account, who you're doing print on demand, I'm assuming mostly?
Yeah.
Who fulfills that for you? What print provider are you
Printful?
using?
Printful.
Okay.
Yeah, Printful. I mean, I've shopped. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask, what's your experience been like? Because a lot of people, again, listening are just starting out, and they might be contemplating, like, I'm going to use Printful to drop ship or to fulfill my products that I sell on Etsy or whatever platform. So, can you talk a little bit about your experience with Printful? Pros, cons, that kind of stuff, and maybe help guide some people that are thinking about that, and then just let us know how that's been working for you.
Yeah, Printful. Gosh, man. I have a love-hate relationship with them. So they're really good. Like they'll fulfill your orders, but sometimes I find that on some orders it'll take really long. Like I just had an issue today. Like I had to get in contact with customer support because it had been more than 7 days, right? Because their promise is that they're going to fulfill your orders within 7 business days. It was like 8 days on this particular order. So on some orders, it might take a bit longer for some reason. And another complaint that I have is they're super expensive. They're really expensive. But their customer service is great, right? Like, again, like when I had that issue today, I contacted them and they took care of everything. But yeah, so there's pros and cons, right? I mean, just like anything else in life, there's pros and cons.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, if anything, I'm a huge supporter of small businesses. Like I would love to find a small business or like a local printer here who can fulfill my orders. That would be a dream of mine. But yeah, but right now it's been careful.
I know a couple printers.
Yeah, I know a couple guys that own print shops. I could.
Are you talking about? Okay.
You got.
Are you guys both in Colorado?
Yeah. We both. So
Okay.
let us know. We'd love to chat and see how either one of us. Both of us.
Yeah. You know what? Let's talk afterwards for sure.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason we got Johnny. No, I'm just kidding. That's totally
That's a great strategy.
The bait and switch, Yong.
Right. That's a great strategy, Travis. I love it.
No, that's funny. Awesome. Have you ever used like Printify or any of the other ones, or is it's mainly been Printful for you for your Etsy stuff?
I have not. I've heard some nightmare stories about them. So I just pretty much avoided them. But yeah, I mean, remember when, like during the pandemic in this past December?
Oh, I remember.
Man, I mean, like not only had like Amazon shut down, like Printful was taking like 7-8 weeks to fulfill their orders, and And so I was like, fuck, man. I was so desperate, and sorry if I'm cussing. So I was like, this is when I was back in Silicon Valley. I was trying to find local printers back there, and it was just, it was tough. So no, I never used Printify, but I'm open to use, any printers outside of Printful, as long as they're reliable.
Sure. Yeah, I think there's definitely some pros and cons to having, a Printful versus a local shop. I think, with Printful, the ease in which they've made the listing process is amazing. Like their user interface on their website is really awesome. It's top notch, top quality. You really kind of know exactly what you're doing. You know what you need to do. They do all the mock-ups for it. All of that stuff is it's right there at your fingertips. But you don't, you say customer service is good. And I've heard both of, those experiences with people that, customer service has been good and customer service is bad. I mean, you think about last December when you're saying things are taking 8 weeks, 7-8 weeks. And that wasn't just Printful. I mean, there were a lot of companies that were really backed up because we had the most unprecedented e-commerce shopping Q4 in the history of man, because nobody could go out to the shops. They were all shopping online. Like, we've talked about that before on our podcast. And so it really, really did. And then you had the fact that nobody wanted to work. Nobody wanted to get out there and work because they were afraid of getting the virus. And so it was kind of a perfect storm that really, hit. And then, we always talk about, we have a segment sometimes we'll run on the show called Apparel Rants. And it's basically just us talking about how freaking hard it's been to get, a black XL hoodie from anywhere in the freaking country, at least last year. There were times where just certain garments and certain colors were not available to anyone. And so you combine all of that and, back to what I was originally saying, like with, a smaller company, the pro is that you can pick up the phone and you can actually talk to somebody, and you can, and you can see, hey, what's going on, get a straight answer, get a quick answer. With Printful, I mean, I'm sure that their chat queue was just, an hour wait every time because they just didn't have the capacity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's, like I say, there's definitely pros and cons, and then with that local print shop, it's not going to be maybe as easy to integrate with some of those places as it would be with a Printful or even a Printify. So, but yeah, again, there are definite, pros and cons to both ways. And you just kind of have to decide, which way is going to be best for you and your business.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm just a huge supporter of small businesses. My parents were small business owners, and I always just I like to keep my business within the small community. Like,
sure.
Like I hate going to Target. I hate going to Walmart. I'd rather go to the local mom and pop shop down the street and give them my business. It might cost a couple of bucks extra, but look, again, I've watched my parents raise two boys and through their small business, and so I know, I've seen it. I know what it's like. It's so I'm all for it, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, let's get into what Travis and I call our magic questions, and there's nothing magic about them other than the fact that they keep reappearing on every interview we do. So that's probably why we call them magic. We're not entirely sure, but there are a set of questions that we pick and choose from when it comes to our guests and kind of get their insights as well. So one of the things, when you're going through your career, I'm sure you mentioned Chris Green kind of introduced you to Merch by Amazon because he is a Merch by Amazon evangelist, and you were yet another convert of his, so which is great. But along with Chris in the POD world, as you've gone on, who are people that you've kind of looked up to, sought for advice, kind of learned from their example? Who are some of the people out there that you are really gleaning off of when it comes to the print on demand sphere?
Oh gosh, there are so many. I talked to Ken Reel a lot.
Yep.
I talked to Ken a lot. I have some friends within the community. I don't know if they're well known, but I'll mention them anyway. Amber Timmerman, we became really great friends. We talk about merch quite often. Leak, I'm sure you guys heard of Leak, right? Leak Designs, on merch. He's killing it on merch, right?
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah, just look up, and you can write this down, Travis. Just look up Lique. Yeah, his brand name is typically Leak something. The guy crushes it, man. But anyway, I do reach out to him occasionally. The guy he's probably one of the more successful guys on Merch by Amazon, I would say. But I talk to, every now and then I'll reach out to him. Glenn and I, obviously, as co-hosts back in the days, we used to talk a lot. He doesn't do merch anymore. So I guess I can exclude him. I don't even know why I brought him up. He doesn't do merch anymore.
Yeah.
But, I talk to RJ every now and then.
Yep.
But yeah, I talk to quite a bit of people. But those are the main people that I talk to.
Well, it's good that you mentioned a few people that we've had on our show. So that shows that we're doing something good.
It worked out well.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So how about this one? Story time with Yong. Tell us about a time when something in your business, in your POD business, that felt like a failure.
Oh, gosh. You know what it was? And I don't mind sharing the story because it's, it was a trend, and I don't mind sharing that trend because it's over, it's done and over with. But do you remember when Conor McGregor fought
Logan Paul? Oh no, he didn't fight Logan Paul.
No.
We did, but that was
Mayweather.
No. When Conor McGregor fought, remember he threw that freaking he threw that thing through that damn bus window. What was it? The dolly. He threw that dolly.
Yeah.
So So I made a shirt about that, but obviously I didn't use like words like UFC or Conor McGregor, but I made a shirt about that, and I even said on my podcast, "This is gonna make me millions. No one else is doing this." I didn't sell one, not one. And so I totally failed on that one because at the time, like everyone was talking about it, right? Oh, it was all over social media. Look what Conor McGregor did, and I'm just like, oh man, everyone's talking about it. It's
everyone
real.
wants it on a shirt. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone wants to wear it. It's just
I didn't sell one.
That's an interesting. Go ahead, Josiah.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that's a good kind of lesson about how print on demand and this whole thing can kind of train you to be cautiously optimistic about whether it's a new design, whether it's a new client. I know I've gone through the whole, like, you land a client, you're like, well, it's set. I'm just going to watch the ship roll in, and they're going to move thousands upon thousands upon thousands of units, and they have a good week, and then they disappear. And you're just like, well, that sucks because I put all my eggs in that basket, and now they're on the floor. So I think that's just a good lesson, and how to, and being cautiously optimistic, not pessimistic, which is there's a fine line, but cautiously optimistic. But Travis, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say, I think the one of the lessons you can learn, or just, it's very hard to have a shirt about something that you can't really use the main keywords that someone would go to search that shirt for. You couldn't use UFC, you couldn't use Conor McGregor, you couldn't, there were certain things it's hard to really, capitalize on something like that when there's, copyright and trademark and all that stuff that you really have to walk that fine line. It makes it difficult.
I think it's a new segment. We get a shirt design that we can't use the main keywords for, and we have to riff on what we would to try and drive that same traffic to the design.
Now, if it catches, lightning in a bottle does strike occasionally. And, if somebody somehow figures it out, and then the algorithm, the Amazon algorithm goes, oh, that's what they meant. And they might put it in front. Somebody might search Conor McGregor shirt, and your shirt might come up all of a sudden because somehow the dots got connected, but you don't have any control over that at all. You can't use that stuff in your keywords, and, you're kind of at Amazon's algorithm's mercy at that point, which is, that's a very interesting, thing to really consider when you're trying to jump on trends and trying to capitalize on, things that are going on in the news, which is definitely a great strategy if you can make it work.
Yeah. But, here's the thing. That was obviously 2-3 years ago. I probably wouldn't do it these days because that was even that particular design was kind of risky because we all three of us here know that Amazon is really, really I'm not going to say difficult, but it's kind of tricky to upload those kind of designs on Amazon. And I think whenever you do stuff like that, you're taking a big risk. Because you just never know what Amazon's going to say, right? They might come back and say, they might say, oh, this is about UFC. You can't do stuff like this. And even though they say parodies allowed, man, I just don't. And I was telling Ken this, I don't do parodies anymore because even though they say it's allowed, every time I do a parody, they just get rejected. They get not only is it allowed, every time I do a parody these days, they all get rejected. They all get rejected, and I'm like. And I just get fed up, and I'm just like, I'm not doing parodies anymore.
Yeah, that's understandable. So, how about this one? This one is one of our favorites to ask, and you have to kind of look into your crystal ball here, Yong. And if we were to ask you, what do you think the future of print on demand is? What would your answer be?
Oh gosh, well, obviously it's going to be more products. Are we talking print on demand in general or merch by Amazon?
Print on demand in general, but merch by Amazon, of course, is in that sphere. But just, I think print on demand as an industry.
As an industry, well, gosh, more products. I think technology always gets better, right? 10 years ago, no one really even heard of a DTG printer. So
Sure.
I think technology is going to get better. We'll have faster machines, faster printers. It's only going to get better and better from here on out.
Mm-hmm.
Higher quality, guaranteed.
From the business side, how do you think that's going to affect, kind of small mom and pop shops, and then the casual print, side hustle print on demand seller? How do you think the future? What does the future look like for them?
You're talking about the small mom and pop shop printers?
Yeah, those, and then on the other side, the ones who are using those small mom and pop shop printers.
Well, so I know how much these printers cost, Travis, and if you're in the business of printing these shirts, you obviously know they're very expensive. I mean, I looked into it myself. So I think the small. So I'm like, I actually, believe it or not, like early in college, like I actually took a class on how to do silk screening, and that's the like the old school way of printing shirts. That's really becoming somewhat obsolete, right? Because like I said, I mean, with technology, you want everything to be faster, and with the printers, you're able to print the shirts much faster. And with that said, man, these printers are super expensive, and in order for those mom and pop shops to compete, man, they need to buy these printers without a doubt. I mean, because there's no way that they're going to be able to, like I could be like the soccer mom who comes in and say, hey, I need 50 shirts by Tuesday, and it's like Saturday afternoon. Yeah, technically you can do it with the old, like I said, the old school way of doing the silk screen, but man, you're gonna need to have the printers to be successful. So, in order for the mom and pop shops, they really, really need to invest in those technology. That's my opinion.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah,
let's do one more. How about if you had to start all over? Lost all your contacts. You don't know any of the people you talked about earlier. You just got your Merch by Amazon account. What are you doing first?
Gosh, research, right?
Okay.
I mean, research is important because I mean, if I literally just started over, but I still have my skill sets, I want to know what I'm designing about, so I would just do research. Again, technically, I don't really do trends anymore, but but that's again hypothetically. If I was just starting, I would say what's trending at the moment. So definitely research.
Okay, cool.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Yong, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us there from your extended stay in California. We won't name the extended stay because they're not sponsoring this podcast and they don't get a shout out. But thank you, Random Extended Stay, for allowing Yong to be there to be on this show. And Yong, thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be on this show. Let people know real quick before we hop off here, if they want to know more about your podcast or follow you on Instagram, whatever, where?
Did we lose him?
I know we might have. He might have just dropped.
But basically, he was asking about the podcast. So just go on iTunes, Merch Minds Podcast. If you guys want to follow me on Instagram, I do have an account, but I'm not really on there much. Just, at Online Yong, Yong, Online Yong. You guys can find me on Facebook. Reach out to me. If you guys have any questions, I'm not one of those people who don't respond. I always respond, regardless of how silly your questions may be. You guys can send me a message on Facebook. Cool.
We'll put all those links in the show notes, and I think we lost Josiah. I'm gonna have to figure out what the heck happened to him. But I want to thank you for coming on the Print on Demand cast, man. It's been a good time, and I'm hoping that our listeners got some some inspiration and some actual practical advice that they can use in their Merch by Amazon accounts and in their print on demand businesses. Yeah,
I appreciate you having me. It's been fun.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, sir.
Cheers.
Well, there you have it, folks. Our interview with Yong from the Merch Minds podcast. I want to thank Yong again for coming on the show and apologize for the technical difficulties that inevitably made themselves apparent when you guys were listening to this and I miraculously disappeared. So word to the wise, if you want to make content and of any sort, make sure that the power strip that your laptop is plugged into is actually turned on, lest you just die at the very tail end of the interview. But no, Yong, thank you so much for coming on. Hope you guys enjoy that. Travis, what did you think of Yong and his interview here on the Print on Demand cast?
Yeah, that was good. Just, hearing somebody else's perspective on Merch by Amazon, because as we alluded to in the interview, neither one of us really focus on that in a primary way in our businesses. Yeah. It's kind of, for me, it's kind of that thing that just, I think I still make a few $100s every month, which, I'm not mad at, sure. But it's nowhere near what it could be had I focused and given that attention to it the way, Yong has and others have in the Merch by Amazon community. So it was good just having somebody that had a little more knowledge of that space and could speak a little more intelligently to maybe how to get out of tier 10, how to get out of tier 25, really, focusing on your designs, focusing on your keywording and being intentional about it and treating it, like a business. Even if it is a side hustle, still treating it like a business. I think that's important.
Sure.
So yeah, it was good. It was good having them on. Was there anything for you that stood out in the interview?
Well, I think it was just good to have someone like you said that is in the Merch by Amazon space, because a lot of our listeners, of course, are just starting out, and the easiest kind of barrier of entry to this whole industry is kind of Merch by Amazon. So having someone that frequents it, that understands it, talking about Printful and how they have done for him fulfilling his Etsy store, I think is really good for listeners to hear, because there are going to be a lot of people that are trying to figure out, is it Spring, is it Printful, is it, which provider do I want to go with? So getting his kind of account on how that's been going from him is very helpful. So man, all around, I think it was a lot of helpful information for people that are trying to, like you said, whether it's a side hustle or your main business, or your side hustle that you're treating like a business, which you should do. Lots of good, helpful information there. So Yong, thank you so much again for coming on the show. It was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just wanted to say one thing about last week's episode when we talked about kind of the power of why. And I just really appreciated a couple people came in. I just typed in a little thing about something that I said last week about how print on demand is simple, but it's not
right.
Easy. And, agree or disagree. And some people posted that in the Facebook group, or some people commented on that. And it was a really good, and it was a good kind of exercise to get us thinking about some of these things. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who commented on that. And if you have a comment, please go to our Facebook group. It's printondemandcast.com/Facebook and join our group. And you can participate in things like that, and
yes,
and even start those those conversations if you wish. And so we'd love to have you guys join us in that Facebook group. But yeah, just wanted to say appreciated everybody kind of getting in on that. It was. I also had somebody email me and say that they really appreciated that episode, and it really got them thinking about their why. And so hopefully, if you haven't listened to that, please do go back and check it out. And if any of these episodes stand out as something that's really helping you, we'd certainly appreciate it if you just reached out to us and told us, because sometimes we don't hear anything, we just don't know, and it's we kind of base our assumptions on the numbers of downloads and things like that. And I think some episodes are going to resonate with people more than others. And so if something's resonated with you, go ahead and shoot us an email at info@printondemandcast, or say something in the actual Facebook group. That would really mean a lot to Josiah and I think so. Just
absolutely.
Throw that out there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I want to thank, Travis mentioned the people, Eric Magnuson. I'm going to butcher these names probably. So please do not unsubscribe because of my inability to pronounce some of these names. Eric Magnuson, who actually posted and said episode 53 was great. and then told us why he thought so and talked about the Start With Why book that we mentioned last week. So thank you, Eric, for posting in the group. And then again, Travis said, you know, the question he posed, which I think is a great question. I think it's even a great idea for kind of a roundtable episode type thing about simple versus easy. Greg Laufer commented, Tammy Trin, Brian Skatchner. Again, I apologize so far in advance for this. Ken Ryle posted, which I know how to pronounce his name because he's on the show. Vicky Wilson Conley and Nick Eden all posted and answered that question on the group. And if you guys want in on the conversation, you already know what I'm going to say. There's one place to go. printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where you go to get in on the conversation, to join the community. You can like the Print on Demand Cast page, and then you can join the group. And the group is where we have a lot of these types of conversations. So please do so. Like Travis said, it's greatly appreciated. And you can email us, info@printondemandcast.com. Your questions, your suggestions, anything like that, please let us know what you have to say. And the other thing you can do for us as well, as always, is leave a 5-star rating on iTunes. No matter where podcasts are or where you get them, the PODcast is there for you. So if you happen to use the podcast app as your main vehicle for your podcast listening pleasure, please leave us a 5-star review. It means a lot to us, and it helps us get in front of the right people. We talk a lot about algorithms on this show, and just like Print on Demand, there are algorithms when it comes to podcasting, and your reviews help that algorithm get us in front of more people. And again, the easiest way to support the show, printondemandcast.com/shop, pick up a shirt and let us know which shirt you love and why, and then just buy it. And then send us a picture of you wearing it, and we'll shout you out on the show. We'll put you on the screen on the YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, there's no overlay for this because I just literally remembered it. We have a YouTube channel, friends. YouTube or printondemandcast.com/YouTube. We're uploading video versions of each episode. When we get our new equipment in the 3070, I'm going to record and put some stuff up on the YouTube as well. So please subscribe, like the videos there. Helps the algorithm on YouTube. Travis, there's lots of stuff that we can do with a YouTube channel that I think would be a lot more immersive as far as content wise, you know, like ISS Long Beach, California. They would probably, I mean, there's lots of stuff we can post on a YouTube channel, video content wise, that would give them more info or let them in more on our world than just the audio once a week. Yeah, I think I'm really excited about that Long Beach show for sure, but definitely, you know, jump in to the Facebook group and, you know, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Because when we say we're going to do these things, you know, when we actually get around to actually doing them, you're going to want to be a part of that. So when we are going to get around to doing some of that stuff, it's just, you know, we're running our businesses every single day, just like you guys are. And so you get it. It's not, you know, we're not trying to hold anything back. You know, this is a passion project. It's not our job. But we do want to provide good content for you guys. And so make sure you subscribe and you'll be notified when we put something up there. Yeah. So please, like Travis said, when the content drops, you're going to want to be there and be the first to know about it. So printondemandcast.com/YouTube, printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where all of our content is going at the moment. And then, of course, all the podcast platforms as well. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Print on Demand Cast. Thank you one more time to Yong for coming on the show and giving us some of his insight on the POD industry. And as always, for Josiah, for Travis, I'm going to try that all over again. And as always, oh my God, this is the most outtake worthy 3 minutes of my life. We're not going to do this as an outtake. This is going in the show. This is comedic gold right here. You're not okay. So we're not taking this out so they can hear everything I'm saying. Okay, exactly. We'd like to be transparent with you here on the Print on Demand Cast and share our successes and our failures, even if it's verbally into a microphone while staring into a camera. It's all for you, our listener. And as always, for Travis, I'm Josiah, and we'll see you next week right here on the Print on Demand Cast. See ya.
Hey, babe. Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand Cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.
in 3, 2. Oh, that's okay. I can go here if you want to slouch a little bit more. Outtakes. Okay.
Amen.